Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. And this is our first ever Hangout on Air as part of our Google Apps Administrative Assistance community. And we'd like to thank you for joining us. And today we're going to look at some great ways to use Gmail and to organize your inbox. And we have some of our assistants, senior executive assistants here volunteering to talk to you about this. We are going to have a comments section, so feel free to post comments or questions and we'll try to answer them at the end. And there will also be a recording of this broadcast so that you can watch it again at your leisure. So, and even if you're not an administrative assistant, please stay tuned because we're sure that you'll find some really interesting use cases here. And I'm going to hand it over to Heather and Ben, and they're going to talk to you about how they organize their inbox. Heather, can you go ahead and tell us how you do that first?
Sure. As she said, my name is Heather. This is Ben. We also have our mascot, Argos, here with us. Argos, say hello.
Oh, he's running off.
He's running off. Argos is a dog.
He's camera shy.
He's a little camera shy. So, yeah, the thing that I wanted to talk about most today is how I use multiple inboxes. And actually, Ben is going to be talking about that as well, but we happen to use them very differently. There's no right or wrong way to use multiple inboxes. You could do whatever works for you, but these are just two possibilities on something that can really help your workflow and your efficiency. So as you can see there, that's my inbox. And my goal is to keep my inbox to 0, as everybody is. Everyone always talks about inbox 0. But I have 15 in there right now. That's not bad. My goal is more like maybe 10 at any given time. But the way that I do that, because I get hundreds of emails a day, one of the ways I do that is by creating multiple inboxes. So if you sort of scroll below my main inbox there, you'll see that there's 4 other inboxes that have certain labels on them, and that is a way that I keep track of a lot of my to-dos or a lot of things that are pending, so I'll go into that into more detail now. So first off, you probably might not know how to create a multiple inbox. So if you go up to the top and you click on the little settings wheel, and then you click on the word settings, it brings you to a page that has a bunch of different types of Gmail settings at the top. And one of them, if you've enabled the lab multiple inboxes, will be multiple inboxes. So you click on that, and then as you can see, I've actually set up 4 multiple inboxes. I have the opportunity here to set up 5 different multiple inboxes, and you can do this with any type of Gmail search operator. So it could be from mom or to my boss or whatever it is. I've happened to do this with just labels. So you could do this very easily by saying is, colon, and then the name of the label. So the first 4 are done, so I'm just going to show you how to do the 5th. The last one that I have is awaiting confirmation before further action. So I make the inbox called is, colon, and then awaiting confirmation before further action, which is exactly as it is typed in my label. And then you can see at the bottom, it gives you a choice of where you want your multiple inbox to be located. You could have it to the right side of your main inbox, you could have it above your inbox, or you could have it below. And I've chosen to have it below, but of course, like I said before, anything that works for you or makes your life easier, that's great. So then you just press Save Changes, and you go back into your inbox, and all of the multiple inboxes are set up. So what I'm just going to do now is go through each of the inboxes that I've set up and explain why I have it that way and how it works for me. So the first one is orange. I like to keep my labels different colors. I'm a very visual person, and color sort of helps me see what I need to do in certain categories. So this one is orange. It's called Awaiting Confirmation for Meeting. Now, as administrative assistants or anyone who sets up meetings for other people or even meetings for yourself, you always go through this whole thing about, okay, here's 3 times that my boss can meet, and then you press send, and then you're waiting, and so you're waiting for someone else to decide what times work best for their manager. But how do you keep track of that? How do you know on your calendar which times you're holding? Do you just keep it to memory and hope that you don't schedule anything over those times that you told someone else were free, or do you put it on your manager's calendar so then the manager's calendar has confirmed meeting, but also these tentative meetings? To me, that gets a little confusing because your manager might think that that's actually a confirmed meeting when really it's just tentative. You could hold it on your own calendar, but then that's confusing because then it looks like you're busy at a time that you're actually not. So what I've done, if you go over to the calendar, is I've created a new calendar called Managers Tentative Meetings. And as you can see, that's also orange. So it corresponds with the label and the multiple inbox for awaiting meeting confirmation. So they're both orange. So in my head, when I see orange, I know, okay, I'm still waiting for this meeting to be confirmed. So one of the examples I have here, on Thursday, August 2nd, I have a meeting with customer A at 3:30. And then on Friday, August 3rd, meeting with customer A at 5 o'clock. Because those are the two times that I decided were good for my manager. And I sent those out to the other person's administrative assistant saying, hey, my manager can do these 2 times. Which one works better for you? So let's say the other person wrote me back and said, you know what, Thursday, August 2nd works best. So what I can do is go right into that tentative calendar and edit the event. I don't have to create a new event, or I don't have to delete anything. I just go down to the calendar drop-down box, and I click my manager's name, Christina, and then I can add in any details I want. I can add in the guests. I can add in the rooms. I can put a description. Ooh, we're going to Costa Rica. That sounds like an awesome meeting with customer A.
Can you add me to that meeting?
I'll add Ben to that meeting. Yeah, so Ben's invited to Costa Rica. Ben.
There we go.
Awesome. I want to go too. So then all you have to do, because now it's changed to Christina's calendar, who's my manager, you press save, and then you'll notice on the calendar, we sent a meeting event invite. It changes to green, which is Christina's color, which is my manager's color. So now what I can do is go into the August 3rd event that I'm holding on the tentative calendar, meeting with customer A. All I have to do is click it, and in that box that pops up, I just click delete, and poof, it's gone, and now we only have the confirmed one, and it's on my manager's calendar, and it's so easy. So then what I do is I go back to the inbox, and I click on the email that was sent from the other administrative assistant, who is actually Jeannie. So I click on Jeannie's email. It's request for Bob's availability. Bob is Christina's nickname, if people were wondering. And so I can click on that, and then, or this, Carolyn. So I can just write back to Carolyn, okay, confirmed, excellent, and I can reply to her and say that everything's all set, and then I can just delete the label. So I just click the X next to the label, and then I can archive the email, and then what that does is it's clearing out my inbox. So basically, you see the label's not on there anymore. If we refresh that inbox, so press the inbox button, and then we go down, you can see that email from Carolyn should be gone. So there were 6 emails in this inbox before, now there's only 5. So that's how I use that first multiple inbox. The second one is called Manager Discuss, and as you saw on the calendar before, my manager's calendar is green, and I've made this label green as well because, again, I'm a very visual person, and so I know anything green, okay, that's my manager's calendar, or that's something that has to do with my manager. So this inbox, for example, I have tons of stuff that I have to discuss with my manager. We have a meeting every other day, but at this point my meeting with my manager isn't until tomorrow afternoon. But I don't want this stuff clogging up my main inbox. I want to keep my main inbox as small as possible. So what I do is I apply the label Manager Discuss, and then it automatically gets sent to this multiple inbox, and it's out of my main inbox. And then what I do when I meet with my manager is I can just go through each of these things, almost like a checklist, and then as the things get resolved or confirmed, or I've taken action on the items I need to discuss with my manager, I can just go into whatever the email was, and then click on the label Manager Discuss, click the little X next to it for Bob's review, okay, and click the X next to Manager Discuss, and then archive it. And then if actually right above the multiple inbox there's a little arrow circle, you could just click right on that arrow circle, that one, and then it goes away. So now I only have 3 things to discuss with my manager instead of 4. So it's, again, a way to like clear out, slowly get everything out of the inbox. So the next item is contracts waiting to be signed. So again, this might be a specific use case. Not everybody's managers have to sign a lot of contracts. Mine happens to sign tons of contracts, and there's no really good way for me to keep track of those in my email box. But what happens is every time my manager has to sign a contract, I get an email alerting me that a signature is required. Again, I don't want to clutter up my main inbox with all these because basically I'm just waiting for her to sign the contract. So what I do is I apply the label contracts waiting to be signed, and it automatically goes into my 3rd inbox. And then what this means is either the contract is sitting on my manager's desk for her signature, or it's already signed but I just haven't filed it or I haven't uploaded it into the system. Whatever the case, it's not closed out. But then once it is signed and filed away and I never have to think about it again, and we don't have to demonstrate this, but I can go into the email, I can take off the label and archive it, and I never have to see that again. It's in all of my archived mail. So that's a good way for me to keep track of a very physical task, with the contracts without having a totally separate, tool in order to keep track of what has been signed and what hasn't. I can easily see, 4 contracts to be signed, so let's get those taken care of. The next one is called future meetings, and we've all had that instance where it's July and someone says, oh, can your manager meet me on November 17th? And you just think, I don't know. Who knows what he's going to do on November 17th? He doesn't even know what he's going to do next week at this point. So you be polite and you write back and say, at this point I'm not sure his schedule for November 17th, but if you can email me back maybe in mid-October, or I'll get back to you in mid-October, or however you want to handle it, then what you could do is just apply the label future meetings. And again, it automatically goes into that inbox, future meetings, and I don't really have to think about it yet. And you might be wondering, oh, but how are you going to remember when you need to look at that? So basically, for all of these multiple inboxes, what I do is each day at the end of the day, I just go through really quickly and look at the subjects of all the emails and make sure that there's nothing that is actually urgent at this time. So for future meetings, I'll look in and see really quickly, okay, this is for November, I don't have to worry about it. But as November approaches, maybe I'll say, okay, I should probably reach out to this person again if they haven't reached out to me, in time. So that's the future meetings inbox. And the last one I've created is sort of a very general thing for anyone's email inbox. Is you have a conversation with somebody over email, and then you've asked somebody a question, or you've given someone a responsibility or a task, and you need to keep track of the follow-up for that item. But how do you do that? Well, you could just, again, rely on your memory and think, oh, I'll remember about that. But the problem is you probably have 20 things that require follow-up or more. So the way that I do that so that I don't forget about it is I get it out of my inbox by archiving it, but I don't archive it before I apply the label awaiting confirmation before further action. So basically, I can't do anything with this at the moment, but I need some other input or some response in order to do my next task with this item. So, and again, once a day I go through all this just to make sure there's nothing that I can do, or I can go through and say, hey, that first one's from June 21st, it's now, July 31st, why don't I email this person back and say, hey, where are you with this, or is there anything I can help with to get the response that I need? And then again, once it's all taken care of, I no longer have to worry about this task or this email. I just go into the email, click the X on the label, and then refresh my inbox, and it's gone. And so I sort of use it as a to-do list of sorts. I also have a to-do list, pen and paper to-do list for other things, but this is just sort of a way to organize your email to-do list, because a lot of things come through that way. So I think that's really it. That's how I do it. Ben is now going to show you how he does his inbox using multiple inboxes, and he'll probably think that my way is terrible, like the worst thing ever, and that he can't even imagine how I get any work done. But maybe not. I don't know. But again, there's many different ways to do this. So
I have a different strategy.
He has a different strategy.
Not better, not worse. Just depends on how you work.
Right.
So thank you. I'm a big fan. So Heather showed you the way she stays organized using multiple inboxes. I'm going to show you a slightly different strategy. Not better, not worse. Just one that I think works better for my workflow. So like with Heather's method, your primary goal is to keep your inbox empty. The main inbox where all the messages come in, you want to keep that down to 0 if you can. Now, I get between 500 to 1,000 email messages a day. So you can imagine how difficult a task this can be to keep it all empty. But there are a few things we can do to make this a little bit easier. So the first thing we're going to do is to set up some filters to make sure that only the most important messages make it to that primary inbox. The rest are going to be pulled out to other labels that we can deal with later. So the first label or first filter that we're going to create is the one that's going to apply to those messages where I'm part of the conversation. So we're going to go to Settings. We're going to click on Filters, and we're going to do the label for mail-in lists. And what this label is doing is looking at all the messages that come in and is trying to figure out if I'm in the from or the to line, or the CC line would count as well, of the email. And if I am, it assumes it's important. If I'm not, it assumes it's less important, and it pulls it out to the label. So again, is anything that's not from me and not to me, we're going to hit Continue. And we'll see it's skipping the inbox. It's already getting rid of it. Well, not getting rid of it, but it's pulling it out of the inbox and applying the label mailing lists. And as the name would suggest, this actually applies to every mailing list email as well. So if, like here, there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands mailing lists for every possible topic, this assumes all of those are probably less important than the ones where you're in the conversation. So we're going to hit Update Filter. You would be creating a new filter, but for simplicity, I've already done the work for you. So now, back in our inbox, all of those messages were already pulled out. We also see that the label appeared on the left-hand side. I like to keep my screen as neat and clean as possible with as few items on it as possible. So since I'm going to create a multiple inbox for this later anyway, I'm going to just want to hide this. So I'm going to click on the arrow next to the name and choose Hide in Label List. And this way, I don't have to look at it. It won't get in my way. But of course, not all lists are created equal, right? So if the president of the company sends a message to everyone at AtlasStrat.com saying, we've just doubled your salary, I want to know about that right away, since I'm sure we all get those emails daily.
Oh yeah, every day.
Every day. Whereas the emails that go to funny picture of the day at AtlasStrat.com, I can probably wait till tomorrow or the next day to check that. Or maybe not, depending on the day you're having. Maybe you do want to read it right away. But we'll assume that they're less important than the ones that are sent to everyone at the company. So we need a good way to make sure that these special lists, these important lists, catch our eye. We can't get them back in the inbox since the other filter already pulled them out. What we can do is create a separate label that this will apply to that will show up on the left-hand side and will catch our attention whenever there are messages there. So we're going to go back to the settings and then filters, and we're going to create a label, and we're going to create a filter and a label for important lists. So everyone's going to have a different set of lists for what they consider important. For my purposes, I'd say anything sent to important stuff at AtlasStrat.com is, of course, important, hence the name. You may have something, 1,000 different lists that are all important, and you can put them all in there separated by OR. Once you have your criteria set up, you're going to apply the label important lists, as you can see. And we're going to hit, again, you'd be creating a new filter. I'm just going to hit Update, important lists. There we go. And then we're going to go back to the inbox. And we see that on the left-hand side, this appeared as well. Now this one we don't want to hide, because if messages are being sent to this, we want to be able to read them and we want to know that they're there possibly right away. So let's say what we're going to do, since we do want to keep a neat inbox, is to click on the arrow next to it and choose Show If Unread. And this way, whenever there are messages that we haven't read in there, it'll float right back to the top and it'll appear. But once we've read those messages, that label on the left-hand side will once again disappear. Out of sight, out of mind. So the next filter we'll create is to get rid of all those emails that we get from Calendar. If you use Google Calendar, you know that you get an email for every single invitation, for every single change, every single cancellation, every single acceptance. There are tons of them. And they're probably also less important than the ones that are coming through that are directly to you, that have you in the to line. So we want to pull those out. We still want to check them because they might be important, but we can check those after we check the other emails. So we've already opened up the criteria. You can see anything that has the words invite.ics. Now, if that looks familiar, that's the name of the attachment that's on every single calendar email. So it's a great way to just sort through all of these to pull out the calendar emails. We're going to hit Continue. And what we want to do with this is pull that out of that primary inbox. And we want to apply the label. I called it RSVPs. You can create it. You can call it whatever you want. And we still want to check these because especially if someone declines a meeting with our manager, we want to know because we're going to need to reschedule it. And very often people won't send a separate email. They'll just hit decline. So we'll hit Update Filter. And this is another one because it is important that when it appears, it should grab our eye. So we're going to click on the arrow next to it, choose Show If Unread. And this will make sure that whenever there are unread messages in it, it'll pop up. Otherwise, once again, it's out of sight, out of mind. And the last little piece of magic we're going to work is to create a filter that will help us remember to follow up with messages. Now, Heather also had a strategy for this, and she applied the label manually. We can do that as well, but we're also going to create a filter that will help us make this slightly more automated. So we're going to go back to Settings, Filters, and this time we're going to choose the one for follow-up. Now this filter is going to apply to any message that originates from us. You can see at the top, so from Ben Bayer, that's me. Hi. But doesn't have in the subject re: colon. In other words, if it's not a reply, and it doesn't have the words invite.ics, which of course was the little bit of text for calendar invitations. And what this is doing then is taking any message that we originate and automatically, let's say continue to see what it does. It'll automatically apply the label follow-up. And now we know that these messages are things that we need to come back to. And we're going to have a multiple inbox for that as well. And if it's just something that I'm sending out as an FYI that doesn't require me to follow up, I can always remove the label later. And like I said, this can be added manually as well. And once I go into the multiple inboxes a little more, you'll see why that's so important. So great, our inbox is already way more manageable. But that's really only half the battle. Because we need a good way to triage all of the messages that are still there, to figure out which ones are important and which ones aren't. Because otherwise, if you're an admin like I am, you have a minute or two to work on a task, and then you pick it up, stop, come back to it, and you want to make sure that you're able to pick up exactly where you left off. So if you look, well, I'll show you how to set it up in a minute, but if you look on the right-hand side, you can see how I set up my multiple inboxes. Each one has a different priority level, 1, 2, and 3, ASAP, soon, and later. And with all the messages that come into the inbox, I apply a label to them. So let's just click on any random message in there. And let's say, this is very important. We definitely need to handle this soon. So we're going to click on the little folder icon, the move to, and we're going to move this to ASAP. Because this is something that we need to handle right away. And now you'll see it appeared in that multiple inbox at the top, which is fantastic. So we know we need to handle it. And we're going to do this with all the messages at our inbox. Whenever we come back to our inbox, the first thing we do is triage. And then once that's done, we have this fantastic task list on the right-hand side that's already organized for us. We don't have to put any thought into it. We sit down at our desk. We just work from top to bottom on the right-hand side. Now, if you remember, I mentioned how it's useful to apply multiple labels per email. So for example, that follow-up email, a follow-up label that we created, which also gets automatically applied, we can apply manually. So let's say we had something that needs to be done today. It's in our ASAP label, but we already emailed the person today. We just need to follow up with it. So we can apply that label. You can see the first one in there is labeled follow-up. So we know that it's still waiting on them, but it's really important and needs to be done right away. So it's very useful. And then once it's done, or if they reply, you can X out the follow-up and juggle back and forth. I also call the follow-up label my nag label, because it's a reminder I probably need to get on them to make sure they're doing their job. And the last thing I'll point out is the inbox on the bottom right, which is the one for mailing lists. So we've set this up on the assumption that the stuff in there is rarely actionable. It's stuff that we probably need to read once, maybe once, if at all, but then we can ignore it. And if it is something that's important, we can apply one of our other priority labels so that we know to action it. But we don't want to look at it more than once. So I'm going to show you how I set up to do this in a minute, but right now if we just click on one of those emails, we read it, great, fantastic, and then we go back to our inbox. You'll notice that it just disappears. Look at that, magic. It's gone. Out of sight, out of mind. So whenever we come back, we can just look at the ones that we haven't seen already. So now I'm going to show you how I set it up to do that. So we're going to go to Settings and then Multiple Inboxes. Now, like Heather did, I've set up all of these to represent a different label. They're all Gmail operators. Heather would like to use the is operator. I like to use the label operator. They both do the same thing. The first four are pretty self-explanatory. They're my 3 priority levels, and then my follow-up one. That last one is the one that we've created for mailing lists. But if you'll notice, there's something else as well. There's the is unread component. Now, when we clicked on it and it automatically disappeared after we read it once, that's what was responsible for that. This is only showing the messages that we haven't looked at yet. Now, if a new email is sent to that thread, it'll pop right back up and appear again. And then once you've read it, it'll disappear again. So it helps us to keep on track with everything that we need to look at without expending extra effort coming back to stuff multiple times. And that's all the magic I have to offer.
And it's also important to point out that Ben and I use multiple inboxes, which means that we don't use priority inbox. You can't use them in conjunction with each other. So if you do use priority inbox, basically what they've done is they've made a prescribed use of their own sort of multiple inboxes. I don't even use it, so I don't know what they are. I think it's like is starred or is unread. I don't even know. But whatever it is works for a lot of people. A lot of people do use it. But you can't use either of these or any multiple inbox system or the multiple inbox lab if you're using priority inbox. So you have to choose one or the other. Again, there's no right or wrong way or whatever to do it. Whatever works for you.
My way's the right way.
Well, my way is the right way too. You have some cool things in there though. I like what you did. So, but again, this is our multiple inbox strategies. So thank you for watching.
Great. Thanks, Heather and Ben. And that brings us to the end of today's session. So thank you both very much for sharing your ways of working with us. And thanks to also Christina, our demo driver. And if you're an administrative assistant, please remember to visit our site at assistance.googleapps.com, where you can learn some interesting tips and tricks and talk with each other. And so thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you found it useful. And thanks to the Google Plus Enterprise page for hosting us. Thank you and have a great day.